or review. So with that, I will turn it over to Eric.
I'll turn it over to Erica.
All right. So last fall, I came to a city council work session and gave a presentation on mobile food cart vendors and talked about the different types. Food trucks, food carts, food cart pods with buildings. And there was a discussion from council to kind of explore food cart pod site here in Sherwood. And what we took away, what staff took away, is kind of looking at the downtown area first and then going off from there. So tonight we did I'm going to show you some analysis that we did of the downtown area and then seek your feedback on kind of next steps and where we should go. So we did a little outline here of Old Town Sherwood, and we looked at city-owned lots that have food cart potential and then privately owned lots with food cart potential. And all of the lots downtown are historically platted at 50 by 100 feet. And so that comes out to be, 5,000 square feet. And there's not a lot of vacant sites here in downtown Sherwood. And there's probably a lot of lots with constraints. Are there any questions about the lots shown on this slide?
I guess I would just add to that, the 5,000 square foot lots are mainly the private lots, and then so that's what you see in blue/purple. And then in the light green are the city-owned lots. Those are a little bit larger, along Columbia Street, the old school site, and a few others. So if we're considering private lots only, they're going to be the 5,000 square foot lots likely, unless we get a site to redevelop. The building comes down on a 10,000 square foot lot, and then a food cart pod goes up. So if we're looking at private lots only, smaller development for food cart pods. If the city is involved, either in a sale or a lease, you're looking at a larger site, mainly the ones next to Cannery Square here.
Mm-hmm. So we did a little mock-up of a 5,000 square foot lot and a potential food cart pod on that site. And you're squeezing a lot onto a 5,000 square foot lot. We looked at, there's a possibility of squeezing, 5, maybe 6 food carts. I would say less than 6 food carts on a 5,000 square foot lot. And then, what we heard from all of you is that you really wanted to make it a destination and you wanted some sort of, permanent canopy structure, that could have, beverages inside as well, like a beer garden. So squeezing that all into a 5,000 square foot lot is going to be, pretty tight. But we mocked it up here and kind of showed you what that would look like.
So those are standard, be 10 by 20 or 30.
Yeah.
20 or 30, maybe even up to 40 for the food carts themselves, standard size food carts on a trailer. And then the canopy that you see on the left side there is about a 400 square foot canopy. So it's not a super big area, 400 square feet, relatively small. So I think we just wanted to make clear that if we are just looking at Old Town, we're not looking at city-owned lots, it's going to be a fairly small development. So if you're thinking Happy Valley, you're thinking, some of these larger ones that really have a presence, it's going to be difficult to do that on a 5,000 square foot lot. So we would need to look at.
Definitely need 2 lots combined.
Yeah, and I was going to say that to me, this isn't even nearly the experience I would want to require. Like I wouldn't even want this, even if it fit, because I don't want a canopy. I want an actual building that has windows and bathrooms in it and a bar. To me, that has to be part of the requirement, not just put up a canopy, you can put the benches under it and have out, separated bathrooms. And that's not the places I'm talking about that I've been to that I really want to bring to Sherwood.
Yeah, and it would be tight. I mean, you can look at really.
Yes, I hate hearing about this. So I agree with Doug. This is horrible.
But I think we need to, so to me, I guess that, to me, that my frustration, I think I expressed to you, Erica, when we got the email, is I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse, a little bit in that. To me, like, I want to be less focused on where and format and size and more focused on what are the requirements that we want any one of these things to have, no matter where it is in the city, and then work backwards from there. Because I don't think you could do it on a 5, I'm convinced you can't do it on a 5,000 square foot lot in the way I envision.
What size is the lot outside of the art center? At the Ravel lot?
Oh, well, let's see.
I'm just trying for my own visual.
Can you go back to the map?
It's.
Yeah, it's gonna be even smaller, even less than that, yeah.
All right, thank you.
So that was option one, and then option two is kind of opening it up a bit more and letting food cart pods be in the retail or general commercial zones in Sherwood with draft standards. Then there's option three, we do not allow for food cart pods.
This makes sense if we're.
Can we go back to, number 2?
Mhm.
So just elaborate a little bit more on this one. Both the orange and the red are commercial zones. So red is retail commercial, orange is general commercial. If we went this direction, you could get a vacant site that's undeveloped that would develop into a food cart pod, by itself. We have a few properties along Highway 99 that could develop in that way, but I think likely what you're going to see is a portion of an existing commercial center be redeveloped as a food cart pod. I think that's probably going to be the quickest, cheapest way that a developer would get in a food cart pod is one of our existing commercial centers. We draft a code for parking requirements, et cetera, what everything needs to look like, and they're able to demonstrate that they can still meet parking minimums, even if they take away some parking. I don't see anybody demoing a building or portion of a building for this, but maybe, so they'd have to show compliance with all the standards as part of that commercial center when putting in the food cart pod. And I think that's probably likely what we would see. I guess you could see a smaller vacant property being able to make this pencil, but I think it'd probably be a little bit more difficult. So I think you're probably looking for existing commercial centers.
So with this option, if I'm like a Walmart or somebody, and I just say, hey, I want 5 food carts in my parking lot, that would be an option, or are we still saying you gotta have that central building and it's gotta be a.
Yeah, we would still do, I think the preference would, and staff as well, we want this to look nice. We don't want one-off food carts in parking lots. We would,
Okay, perfect.
you guys would adopt standards,
Okay,
and they would have to have enough space within that commercial center to meet all the standards, screening, parking, canopy, bathrooms, whatever it is, and make it work within that site. So depending on how much we require, it could be more or less difficult.
so I think what appeals to me about this is that, like Doug was saying, that having that central building that is, a physical location that, especially with the weather and everything else, year round, it allows for inside dining as well as the liquor license and stuff like that. That appeals to me more than not. So I guess, and by the way, I appreciate you putting all of those things on that square lot because it kind of shows us that it might be squishing a little bit to just do it on once. So in that sense, thank you.
I think it's sort of.
Oh, the idea of having, if somebody were to put one, ideally, I kind of like the idea of Old Town where it draws people around, but it doesn't seem feasible down there, so.
Unless we're looking at a city-owned property.
Right.
And that's kind of like,
Frankly, I like it over by the high school. Draw, keep the lunch crowd there and start building up the draw over there, but I don't have any land over there, so.
So, yeah.
Long term, that's a really good point. Yeah. You know, I think in the short term, though, it'd be hard to get a project going.
Yeah. But maybe as we look at the Shore West plan to make sure that we're including the zoning over there for something, but I know that's pretty far along now.
Right, and the other call out, I think I mentioned this before, if we want to get into specific requirements, it's like each pod has to, or each cart needs to be plumbed in water and gray water in the city system like that. So like, it's not just like you're driving up and parking a car like a weekend festival. It's a permanent, I mean,
Semi-permanent.
these trailers stay there for, they have a year-long lease, a 2-year-long lease, and they don't move.
They're still on wheels, sort of thing.
You can see the skirting around.
Yeah, they put up the skirting and.
Yeah, that certainly addresses at least a lot of the
Definitely properly screening the like instrumentation and trash. I just think like it has to be a little beefier than I think what the vision you brought us to me. I don't just want 5 carts and like a couple picnic tables with an awning.
I think we agree, and that's why we showed it, is
That
that
doesn't work.
we do have a concern that it's gonna be underwhelming.
Yeah.
Is how I would describe it.
Yeah.
And if we're going, based on the examples you guys have cited, it's gonna be difficult to do that on a 5,000 square foot lot unless we're doing very minimal setbacks, things like that, where you really kind of maximize the site and the building kind of is bigger for the site, which is possible too. So town has 0-foot setbacks. So what we showed has some setbacks to residential areas.
Mhm.
Can't be in that neighborhood. And I know someone reached out to me that was interested in potentially leasing or buying some of the Columbia Street city owned land to do a project like this. Obviously, that's a whole other conversation with council. There's interest.
It's awesome. I get a lot of requests about that too, in my work life about food pods and creating the Old Town Sherwood area. I guess, I like the idea of a destination space and having some sort of a building or a structure for people to use for indoors and outdoors. I just don't want to be prohibitive or so prescriptive that it disallows that somebody to come in. I don't know. I understand both sides.
So I do have a question for the council, probably, and you guys are welcome to weigh in as well. How many food carts is a minimum impressive amount to make it a destination? Is it 8, 10? That might help us get to the size here.
I mean, it's gotta be. What can our community support in that?
Well, yeah,
It could be as low as 5.
okay, we just saw 5 and we said that was underwhelming. Was
But
it
it was
underwhelming
underwhelming
because of the central?
The building.
Yeah, you said to put the.
Okay.
permanent structures.
The stuff around it that you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 5 or 6 pods plus a permanent structure
Bathroom.
with bathrooms and indoor seating and liquor license.
I guess I would look at it another way. I don't think we need to specify the minimum because the market will drive the minimum. If we say you have to have this type of building and this type of amenities and everything, then they're gonna know. And the people I've talked to have said 8 to 10 is kind of the minimum viable. For the requirements we're talking about, where you're gonna build a centralized building with indoor, probably selling alcohol, on bathrooms, all those things, like that's not gonna pencil out at less than 8 or 10.
Yeah.
Because the way the models work is you lease, then they lease spaces to the food trucks, right? So the central building they own the property, they probably own the bar, right? Or maybe they lease that out too, but right, that's generating that income, but then the rest of it is the trucks rent their spaces, year-long lease, month to month, right? So to get the project to pencil out, they've got to get at least 8 or 10 or it won't work. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think we need to be prescriptive on that side of it. We just need to be prescriptive on here's the minimum requirements to build one of these. And then the market will decide if it's 5 or 6 or 8. And if they don't think the community will support 10, then they won't build.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if somebody says I want to build a 5,000 square foot lot, and I think 2 food courts is enough, I'm gonna have my indoor bar thing.
Good luck. Well, I think that
I don't know, I missed the work session you guys were all, hey, let's go down this road and explore. So I'm just talking out loud.
I agree with the comment about the market and private, but I think we have to have the standards and everything around that, to what it looks like, what amenities are there. and those types of
That, I'm
things.
talking, so I say, we need to set the amenities, the market will drive whether that's 5 pods or 8.
So, but should there be a minimum?
Sure.
I think there probably.
And yet, we
5.
4,
I
5.
did 5.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm in the 5 to 6 range.
Yeah, because otherwise you got someone come in and put the covered area with wood screens, one car, call it a restaurant.
Yeah,
So
we
that's
don't
not
have.
what we're looking for.
Say 5.
So, so kind of a different conversation around this, so, we don't have sales tax in Oregon. We don't, income taxes all over the states, the city revenue is generated as property taxes, so how do we feel about? Obviously, if we have someone can come in and say, city US Bank property, and I'm just making this up, US Bank.
It's actually a good one because you get 5 or 6 food pods.
Yeah, no, that's why I picked it, because it's, it's a great location. It's the probably closest to getting that full city block to do it. But that's also, we would get almost zero revenue as a city, but we still have to provide services, police, street.
You get property taxes on the central
You
building.
do on that, but it's gonna be a lot lower than if it was if something else. Like if a traditional restaurant was put there or something like that, it would be, the taxes are a lot lower, but the service level is the same.
So
Yeah.
if you're going to run the notion of a different kind of business license for the individual pod, is something I would want to explore. So if there's some sort of monthly or annual to offset. Because I don't like food carts for a lot of reasons. The states address some of them with their actual updating of health standards after 30 years, which is long overdue. But lack of, providing services and the lack of payment through property taxes is one of on my list of criticisms. I still have others. So I would support if we go down the path of having some mechanism to still recoup what would be lost if it was properly developed as a full structure.
So I guess I'm confused, Tim. If I had a 5,000 square foot building, wouldn't I pay the same tax if it was a bank or a food cart pod, central road?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
no, because the value of that structure is a lot lower. And I think the worst case scenario, and again, anyone listening, I'm making this up as a hypothetical, but say, one of these city blocks has an old building, and you just raise it to the ground, and put food carts up, you'd see a net drop in property tax revenue. Potentially.
I mean,
You probably don't have a lot of that.
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, it feels like making an improvement, like it's now, so how about if I take that same building, instead of it being a food cart pod central building, it is now a restaurant?
Amen, love it.
No, I understand you, but I'm looking for something else here, a different alternative here. So if I make that, if I make, a fictional bank into a restaurant, isn't that the same?
That's tearing down the building and.
No,
But if you're just putting up if you're tearing down a building and creating a paved lot to put these food carts on, which you don't get, the food carts themselves don't create value for the property.
the food cart,
I know, and then you put just a covered structure or something, so.
How many of these have you been to?
I've been to a lot, but I'm just saying, that we have to be concerned about that.
I get that, but everyone I've seen is like a $500,000 to $1 million build out. I mean, these aren't like.
easily.
Well, you can go on and check out the assessment and.
Oh, sure.
I'm just saying, like, it's not, I've never seen one of these get built that has like 4 walls and a screen door. I mean, they're all like
Well, I've seen some in.
significant investments.
So I've seen some where it's a paved lot with a small little eating area and,
But that wouldn't pass the code.
I understand, I'm just saying it's something that we have to be
Oh,
thoughtful about.
okay.
And, and we'd have to do our research and understand what those impacts are gonna be. Right, and that just comes from a place because we saw it with Brian. all the services associated with having that.
Yeah, and I'm fine figuring out how to cover that. I just, I'm trying to figure out what's fear and what's something we can do something about. Because, I get asked about car ponds a lot, when they're coming. So, it's obviously something that, oh, interested in.
Well, it's not fear, it's, we just have to, we have to consider all this.
Oh, yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, right.
And that's what the code, that's what the standards are for, right? So that, at least partially, having to build a firmly invested central building will allay a good chunk of those fears, not all of it. I think, some other, looking at other ways to recoup some of that investment. As long as we don't become to the point where it's
Too expensive.
backyard chickens and no one will ever pay the
Right.
price, right? Oh,
Great.
well, I love that.
So we have about 6 minutes here. Okay, what do you need from us?
Let's go back to the options. So, I mean, I think we can, just from what I'm hearing about this concern, we can definitely do some research. So if we are bringing back code for review, we can do some research on other examples that we're going for and their assessed value. So you guys can actually look at that. You can look at that before you decide whether or not to adopt code. So if there's a lot of concerns there, you can pull back. So we can bring that forward. It sounds like you guys share like staff's concern about having the underwhelming food cart pod. So I think that would probably be the case on those 5,000 square foot lots. We can you go back to the option? So we can bring back code language that would likely prevent a 5,000 square foot lot from actually working in terms
Can
of
we
just.
make a minimum lot size?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's okay. Yeah, that's fine as well. I mean, so we'll be-
Or I guess if the language,
If you have to have a minimum of 5 cars, the building that will describe in some substance and parking, you're not gonna make it in 5,000 square feet.
yeah.
Right,
Downtown, we don't have to park. But yeah.
Yes,
If
we
it's
are.
in 3 months, there might not be any parking allowed to be required.
Even for. No.
Well, just say there has to be there has to be a minimum between cars, right? So for walking. right?
Yeah, I think
we can figure that out.
Yeah, so is there a concern about sort of the larger format commercial lots and having food cart either as part of a parking lot, assuming there's minimum standards met, or a vacant site? Is that a concern about what's shown on this map here?
I mean, they would have to build a building,
Yes,
so it's not like they're
Yes.
just gonna stick it in the
Yes.
corner of the parking lot.
yes, yep, they would need, and that could be tough too, when it comes to parking standards, assuming the state, if the state doesn't get their way and our parking standards hold, then it might be difficult. They're gonna have to do that analysis and show that they have enough parking for all the commercial buildings plus the food cart lot. So that could be difficult as well. You could be looking at just a vacant site being developed.
I'll just go back to what I said at the beginning. I feel like the focus should be on, let's put the standards in place and then that will drive the location.
Yeah.
Make it all conditional use.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, probably site plan.
And
type for it.
if, and I apologize for not reading the draft potential language, considering my position, to be honest. But if it's located in Old Town, we have an Old Town design standards, that would still be applicable somehow to this thing.
But not necessarily preclude having development down there for food carts.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
good.
I was just gonna ask that question, because I wouldn't want to see us preclude that.
Right. I mean, if there's a somewhere downtown that will work, right? People like that.
Yeah.
So I'm still hearing downtown.
If it can fit, okay.
Yeah, like we're
Yeah.
not, don't put in the code, we can't have it downtown,
Right.
because if whatever our code is and something fits downtown.
Right.
That's where I'm not gonna speak for everybody else, that's where I hear it most wanted and desired by the communities down in the Old Town area.
Okay.
So the 2 areas that I hear most are where the old schoolhouse was, and then that vacant lot in front of the Center for the Arts. And then the third one is the over on the other side of Kennedy Road. Or, yeah,
Yeah, the old schoolhouse and the one next to Cannery Square, those would be larger, probably able to accommodate the one from the Arts Center, probably not. But yeah, I think we can come up with, do a little bit of research on other areas, their minimum canopy size, figure out how much space is actually needed to get something with presence that, people will be attracted to. There's facilities, we can go and actually hang out, be comfortable, and figure out what lot size that actually would require. I don't think 5,000 is gonna pencil, but maybe we could take a much closer look at it once we kind of get those dimensions and sizes dialed in.
But to Doug's point, if we have a standard and someone comes in with something that's really creative and looks great, 5,000 square feet.
So, but for clarification, we're not limiting it to Sherwood downtown, right? We're gonna open it up to retail commercial.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure, because as we're drafting this, that just means that it opens it up. It could be, even though I know that there's a draw to Sherwood downtown, someone else might say, we don't have the appropriate location and it might be someplace else.
Yeah.
yeah, take it a step further, the, what's been, shared with me is the idea of putting like a train depot there on that lot. So that it has the characteristics of what.
You were talking Tim.
No, it wasn't.
So yeah, I've been talking about that for like 5 years.
No, it's other people who
The
have
train
the same,
station?
yeah, like having a train, like a train depot in that lot, yeah. But it's not you though, there's other
Right,
people.
mine. Oh, well,
Yeah.
I brought.
So there, other people have that vision,
Yeah, the historical society, we had quite a conversation about it, so, yeah,
yeah,
I've been thinking,
I don't
Yeah.
know,
no, but
but that's what
if
the,
other people are in
that's
it,
fantastic.
that's awesome. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think that would. That's probably more.
That's not
like a
food
coffee
cart,
shop or something.
no, having that be the main building and then the food carts
Oh.
out behind it. That was the vision.
Yeah, it's where behind it, there's nowhere behind it.
Yeah, I can't see the space.
Or in front of it, anyway,
I also,
If it was a 10,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
Like, it's like 3,000.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a just plug in.
You guys feeling?
They have it on now.
Yeah.
You guys want to-
Oh, yeah, we have it.
You're
I'll get this slide.
If it works.
Sorry.
take an extra side of something like.
So we brought the model. We wanted to set it here.
Come on in, Craig, yeah.
Other Craig.
Yeah.
I didn't know we could completely bring it in there. We want to make sure we have covered.
Anyway,
Just.
anyway, I'm missing.
Okay, I will check my bag.
Did they fit within?
I think they should.
Because mine's a surface, it's a surface.
Yeah. Modules.
Oh, you brought the lights up front. So I don't have to walk back there and
It's
tell you that.
definitely-
Oh, wow, we got a model. Oh, yeah.
I'm not accusing you.
We got all kinds of stuff.
But I will definitely check.
Not quite.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, cool it with the earthquakes.
Hey, if you're not confident in your building.
That's Craig's call.
You can chime in. I get these 3D files.
Been together a few times, haven't you?
Yeah.
This is a. Second has a good present.
Yeah. Nice.
Gonna say. Multiple.
Thank you.
Oh, I think that's director represents hearing. Yes.
Word.
One more.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah, yep, so we're on item 2 on the agenda tonight, which is discussion of lighting for a new pedestrian bridge, so. Craig, I'm gonna kick it over to you.
Yeah, so just real quick, and I'll turn it over to Kurt and his team to get you the information. But tonight, hoping this will be the last time that we're in front of you until we bid the project, besides right-of-way acquisition and some of the other things. So we need to make some decisions, give us some directions to move forward, Kurt and his team. One is on the lighting system, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Two is on the lighting color of the bridges, which one you guys, a little direction on which one you want. And a follow-up to previous art conversation we had, a little direction on that. Still looking at 100% design at the end of this month, early June, with trying to get this thing out to bid in July. Is what the plan is. Unless they tell me it's different tonight. I saw, and I just, we really need to get this direction so these guys can wrap up the 100% design. So.
White bridge, white light. Okay.
All right. They just said if we can't get some direction, we gotta come back and it's gonna push these guys out.
And we can't push.
So we will figure it out.
So, all right, Kurt, I'll turn it over to you.
So I don't think I need to reread the goals of the meeting. There we go. Yes, so we are specifically looking for feedback on the lighting system. I know there were a lot of questions last time we were in front of you. John actually managed to get some of the lighting fixtures themselves, so you can at least take a look at the real thing. The other thing that we've been spending some time on, Nick and John and a couple of other folks, I don't get to play with this stuff, but is some more detailed renderings, trying to give you a better feel for what the lighting system will look like, given the different bridge colors. So hopefully the graphics that we'll show you here will help you on that decision making. And then again, just to tie back to some of the art commission recommendations and what we're seeing that basically come out of that as far as timing for when decisions need to be made in order to not derail kind of the general construction itself. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for having us back again. Talk to you some more. We appreciate that. I don't think it's slipped anybody's mind, but this is the site plan, just as a reminder.
Wait a minute.
And so we thought we'd start by getting a little clarity around the lighting system and what it is and what it's capable of. And then we can talk about how the lighting system and the color of the steel interplay with each other to try and give you as much information as we can to make your decision. So this is a key plan of the lighting, and there really are 4 lighting types here. The poles, which,
right here, this is how thick they are. They will be 12 feet tall. They will be silver in color to match a lot of the other steel on the bridge. And
That's for walkway lighting.
that's for walkways. So these poles, they're symbolized by these dots. So they happen in these walkways on the high school side, lighting that. And then they happen as you get near the ground on this side. Roughly speaking, the poles light the parts of the project that are on the ground. And when you're on structure, when you're on the bridge or on a staircase or something that's built up, you have a different kind of lighting, which we'll show you. They also punctuate the belvederes. There's one at each one because we needed some light there. And there's a pair of these poles every place that you come off the bridge and re-enter the sort of sidewalk. There's a kind of a gateway. So that's what we have. This is a weird sample. The bottom, there's 3 light fixtures in it, light elements in it. The bottom one is the one we're proposing because it's a less glary, more comfortable piece. So I don't know why they sent us a sample with only one of those. It's really going to
Have you
be,
looked it up?
yeah, I can, but I'm going to cover that up because that was the one with not represented.
And there'd be 3 of those bottom ones.
Yeah, that's
The hands will be on the top of a pole.
Yeah, move your hand up a little.
That'd be a top of a 12-foot pole. Yeah.
So turn it, tilt it back towards you a little bit. Okay, I'm just making sure, just because people will be looking up at it.
Yeah, for sure. And we've done a lot
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the top.
Worrying about what the picture ought to be. Any light fixture at night, safety lighting fixture, if you look directly at it, it's gonna look a little bright.
And they're all LED.
They are all LED, yes.
So, and can we,
There, that's better. Yeah, thank you.
and I'm assuming we can adjust the color temperature to a warmer color, so it's not as glary.
No, I don't
Not
think we
with
can
this one.
adjust these color temperatures.
Yeah.
That was funny. I like it.
Again,
We can turn out the lights and maybe see a little bit better.
Yeah. With this anti-glare fixture,
I mean, it's on a 12-foot.
it's on a 12-foot pole. It's above your line of sight. These are very bright. So
LED lights are still fairly flawed because they're not eliminating blue light.
okay,
So that's what we're looking at there.
yeah. And any other questions on that?
I assume there's no options here, so it's an info.
It's that we don't really have an option unless we wholesale go to a different model of pole, which we could change. The bulk, these orange, not the orange, the purple strips that you see here, which run all the way along here, all the way along these major spans, are tiny little LEDs that are embedded in the top of the railing. This is the railing. It's at 4'6" above the ground because that's the height of the top of a railing when there are bicycles present. It's higher than a guardrail for people walking for obvious reasons. And I'm gonna let you take one side because it is heavy.
Oh, that is.
So
That's pathway lighting again.
it has these little teeny
Yeah.
lights embedded in the bottom of it at 2 feet on center.
And they fit and they shine basically straight down.
They're biased,
Angled.
they're asymmetrical, so they're biased to the deck. But they shine down,
Yeah, down and in.
down and in. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
And from for maintenance,
Uh-huh.
repairs, and them.
This system, we have two vendors that are providing this system, so we're gonna get 2 bids. And they both have a little teeny light fixture that is replaced or repaired by pulling it out. And it has an extra wire lead on it. So any one of these along the whole length, you can pull it out and replace it if you need to, or fix the connection or whatever. And
So when somebody's kid realizes that it's possible to remove and they pull it out, break the cable with a wire in there, then what happens?
Then if that happens, then we would need to call the company out to fix it. But it isn't easy to.
To take a special tool.
It's a tamper-proof removal. Yeah, you have to have a special tool.
Okay.
Not Joe's
I'm
company.
asking questions because I want to know.
Yeah. Mind
He
you,
has the answers for you.
I worked at a project at the high school one time where the janitor's comment when we interviewed the user was they would pick apart and handle those kids. So it's a good question.
So if for some reason somebody came across the tool and did it, the vendor would have to come out, they have a means of doing it.
Oh, yeah, they have
Charging us $10,000.
I don't know what I can't speak to what the charge would be, but they could service it. The other 2 lights on the bridge are really the same fixture. It looks like this. I don't have a sample of it. They're linear, not very big. And this is the magic fixture because they each have a red, green, blue, red, yellow, blue, and white LED in them, which means they're capable of creating any color you want. So in the first place, they're located at different spacing, the spacing varies a little for optical reasons, but they're along both sides of the bridge, basically along the edge of the deck, shining up onto the upright arches or down into the inverted arches. So the idea is that they're reflecting light off the concave surface of these steel arches. And then the same fixture occurs where you see these green lines, that's underneath the belvedere. Because in each one of these spots, there's a pair of parallel tapered concrete walls, and we want to illuminate the sort of space, the void that's in there. So that's all the lights on the project. This is a kind of sort of feels like this slide, because obviously it's not exactly our project, but here's the pole again. Here's this kind of railing lighting product that we talked about and what the effect that it creates. Here's an arch. It's a concrete arch, it's not steel, but it's being uplit with light that is reflected off of it, off the concave surface, much like we're proposing.
And here is some really rich colored light reflecting off of some walls. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Plenty of lumens coming out of those fixtures.
We're meeting the standards for illumination.
Right.
Yeah, and when for safety at night, you worry about the level of illumination, and you also worry about the uniformity of illumination. You don't want brights and darks. We meet both the levels and the uniformity requirements. Okay, cool. So we'll keep going. This is a lot of words. So safety, we'll go backwards here. Safety lighting, that's the two pieces I have here. It's white light, it is what it says. That's why it's there. And it does those things I just talked about, the illumination level and the uniformity requirements. The decorative lighting that goes both along the sides of the deck to illuminate the arches and then underneath the deck to illuminate the inside faces of the concrete walls can change any color. We can get a control system that you could control every single light individually if you wanted to. We can talk about, what the right level is. A step back from that might be to control each side of each span separately, but those things are possible. Those are one of the decisions we're going to need to make, is what level of granularity do you want?
Is that able to be added after the fact, or that has to be decided tonight?
It doesn't have to be decided tonight.
Okay.
But we're going to need a decision before we get to 100% CDs, so we can.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I read this, because I did read this twice.
Yeah.
And I guess I read it differently than what you just said.
Okay.
Because I see the fixtures, each fixture has the capability to be controlled independently, but can also be set up as part of the group.
Right,
okay?
right.
And then over here, you have like these preset lighting scenes that have to be pre-programmed, and you can add more later.
Yeah.
So I read that to mean that the individual fixtures have ultimate flexibility, like you said, can be lit independently. We can set up 8,000 programs if we wanted to spend the time and money, and have every light individually controlled differently on each one of those programs.
Yeah. So you read that correctly,
Okay.
and let me just clarify what I'm trying to say. Each fixture can be controlled independently if we buy a control system that sends a wire to each individual fixture.
Okay.
If we buy a smaller control system that sends a wire to each side of each span, then we can't go up in control level. If we buy the bigger control system, we can go back down.
And is a span like one section?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 10 channels there, plus the Belvedere channels, so you
Right.
might have 15.
How many channels per controller?
I don't know that question. I'm not a controls expert, but we've been talking to the lighting manufacturers about what they have.
It felt like a pirate's question.
It's probably, it's probably modules, and how many modules you take, and then it's like how many cables you're gonna run.
Right.
How big the cables are and how much space it's gonna occupy and all that.
Right.
Stuff.
So you're gonna need to know if we want the capability to do everything or the capability to do a lot of things.
A lot of things. That's
That's just a scenario where you might want to alternate like fixtures, right? You might
Yeah.
wanna have red, green, or something.
You might.
It's terribly expensive to retrofit it later.
Right,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know, like, if we, obviously, we're only gonna buy however many programs we buy, but if we get that unit that allows us to do whatever, anything in the future, and that's an extra $10,000, then pay the $10,000.
Right,
But
yeah,
if
that-
it's an extra $1 million, then, okay, we got another question.
And we can get you that delta, at least a
Well,
approximation.
And there
How
might
much
be,
A, B, C, D with regards to number of.
and there might be a compromise too, instead of every fixture every 10 feet, or something like that, so we have a range of.
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe you split each span into 3 segments or.
Right, so you have like all, like in the span, maybe there's 10 fixtures total, and you have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 on one channel, and 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 on the other.
Yeah, the fixtures do they spread the light as they throw it, so there's gonna be some overlap.
Yeah, that's fine.
But we can take advice from the manufacturer on what they suggest.
That's true.
So-
I love how they put it on the cloud so they can charge us a SaaS fee to program it.
Not my idea. So,
And I'm sure it's reasonably high.
sure.
We can find somebody to hack it.
Yeah, that's right. So we can get as much controllability as we choose, but the way we implement it, there's not yet an app you can control it on your iPhone, unfortunately. The best thing to do is to have the manufacturer pre-program these in presets.
So to that point.
Yeah.
Because it is cloud-based, that's actually good news, because if we wanted to have something where there's a scene triggered by scoring a football or a goal in high school, because they'll be able to see it from the stadium, we could do that because it's just a cloud. Well, not according to what it says up there. Changes between preset lighting sequences are typically done through request to the manufacturer.
Yeah,
Remote access.
but you can buy a subscription and do it yourself.
Right, we're not gonna be like flashing.
No,
And isn't it over their shoulder to the right? I mean, like, I don't know that they could really see it.
I don't know.
Future conversation.
Okay.
Future conversation.
I just want to make sure we have the capability.
Yeah, okay.
The-
Looks like they do by remote access.
Yeah, the bottom line is programming in a particular scene, whether it's a holiday scene or a football scene, that's complicated. So we want to have the manufacturer do that because they know what they're doing. Changing between them, you could either have the manufacturer do it, or you could buy a subscription and switch yourself. Switch on the football game just on the day of the football game, for example, and then change it back.
All right, yeah, at some point we might just program around.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We got smart.
That's it, I mean.
But it
I'm
sounds
not
like
kidding.
you give them
If
two
you
to
have
four
20 channels,
sequences.
it's not that complicated. We just want the capability.
All my PLC program.
So just to make sure we don't run out of time and we hit some of the other stuff.
Let's keep going.
So what I think I've just heard is basically we do need to at least come back with a rough order of magnitude cost differential between basically the controlling by span inside
Versus control.
versus basically controlling by each fixture.
I don't know if you need to come back for a meeting.
We don't.
Oh, no. When I say come back, I mean provide the information.
And for Craig or Public Works City will be supplied the full electrical schematics
Oh, sure.
of the bridge.
Yeah.
We know where all the bells and whistles are.
Yes, absolutely.
When the power supply, whatever, relay fails, we replace it.
Okay,
So just to be clear, just get that information back to Craig.
Yes, yeah.
He'll review it, he can email it to council.
right. While we talk, this is the mesh that we're proposing for the railing. It's not this exact size of cell, but this is the sample we had. It's very close. If any of you've been in Portland on the Earl Blumenauer Bridge, a version of this that's closer to what we're using here is on that bridge. But we think it's quite elegant stuff. So I'll just pass that around while we start the color discussion.
So if I might ask, so two questions. Safety for somebody, if somebody's having a medical emergency or they're being attacked, what sort of safety features do we have on this bridge? Cameras, buttons, whatever. And then,
Did we cover that in the previous?
buttons were probably gone. I'll make sure that it's there somewhere and.
The intent is to basically get security cameras on. I mean, we're working with Craig right now to try to get a designer on the team to basically take her place and making sure we know we're getting decent coverage. So that was the takeaway from the last meeting that we had with you guys.
Right, and then each arch, what part of the design element is preventing Junior from tagging the arch?
Tagging the arch, hopefully the cameras.
But we also talked about how.
So we're not having a physical issues, something to impede people from climbing on top of the handrail to reach the arch.
Do you want to talk about I know we talked a lot about that.
Stay on topic and then come back to this, because I know you guys have important questions that.
So
So I want to make sure that it's addressed.
So one thing to point out is that material right there is actually really, really difficult to climb. I mean, at least that was the intent. I know we spent a lot of time with that when we did the Blumenauer for the city of Warwick. So that was part of that, is basically we wanted to make sure we kept things tight so that it was hard to get a toe hold in there. So that's basically one way we're dealing with that.
And I thought we also chose the paint options versus the oxidized
Right.
beams or whatever, because those are
Easier to clean.
Yep.
easier to paint over or whatever necessary for everything anyway.
Could I suggest that we write a couple of paragraphs or however many paragraphs we need on the anti-vandalism measures that are in the project? And
Yeah.
We just send it back to this.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, so the finalists, as of the beauty pageant we had last time, were white or a deep rusty red color for the paint. And everybody asked rightly so, what does it look like during the day and what approximately does it look like during the night under these colored lighting conditions that we just covered? So taking our best shot, here's what we're showing you. So here's the white version.
And is that with white lighting?
This is with white lighting. We've got one here that shows you what it looks like under some colored lighting too, but this is just for basis of comparison. White lighting here, colored lighting under the Belvedere that we talked about. That's that glowing effect that we were talking about. And then we have the same view in the red version.
Yeah, we keep hearing that. I'm sorry, we can't make it change colors.
Yeah, the red looks better during the day.
Yeah. You know, it's surprising how much, from how many spots around this bridge you see the steel against the sky. And that's not always the case with bridges, but with this one, it's pretty true. I mean, you see a lot of it against the sky, and we all know what Oregon skies are like.
One of the things, when this whole thing first started, what I was envisioning, because I've seen bridges like this, the lighting isn't indirect like this. It's actually a light fixture that's on the arch and shining out, and then you could have the best of both worlds. I don't know that, and obviously it's probably way too down the path to change that, but why is it we couldn't have done something like that?
The main reason that we didn't do that is because that would put light fixtures 35 to 40 feet above
So
this deck
maintenance.
for maintenance, right? These, in this case, right now, the lights are all at the deck level.
Makes sense.
It's not impossible to do. Whether it's desirable to do is a different question.
These LED light bulbs last forever. You bring out the stuff, you have to change them once every 10 years.
They last, yeah.
So-
Yeah, some people's definition of forever is a lot longer than 10 years.
I want both. I want
Yeah,
both.
yeah. Yeah, I will point out, we've talked a lot about the railing with the amount of stainless steel, that mesh and some of these tie rods and everything. And it's actually, this does a good job of showing you how much glow and glint you get off those pieces.
Yeah, unfortunately, it overshadows your color lighting completely. Like, I see, and your archway, right? If at night, I'm gonna see this white railing, it's running straight across in a line. But I really want to accentuate the arches.
You want to go back to the white?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying on the red, that's the problem with the red.
Okay.
The arch lighting gets so muted.
And of course, this is just all digital, not actual, so.
Right.
It's as
Yeah.
close as we can get with the.
Yeah,
technology
we could be surprised and the red is great at night, you know?
Yeah, rendering something absolutely true to
Yeah, I
form
can
is
imagine.
very difficult.
Especially when you're lighting.
Right, right.
Let's,
So here you are with your back to the high school, moving east towards the YMCA in the white version. And in the red.
Like better at night, but daytime.
Yeah, so the question is if we go with I'm hearing, and I agree the red looks better during the day. And so is it worth spending the extra money on the fancy lighting?
I think we might end up being surprised.
Can you put glitter in the paint?
You can, yeah, you can put a metal flake. We've already bumped up the red to a higher gloss level in the white to try and get as much reflectivity as we could. This is the last view, and it's white and red on the same shot, and it's trying to show how well they would illuminate. In this case, we have 3 spans with each with a different color on it.
So what was the other one backing up at night that looked like kind of cruddy from a red? No.
Oh, it's further out, yeah.
This one?
That's just all the white
White
lights.
I think this might just have to do with the angle at which you're looking at this. These pipes are 11 inches in diameter? 14 inches in diameter, thank you. And we're lighting the sort of inside surface. So there's not It's not a massive surface that you're illuminating, right? There's a sort of strip of light reflected off there. And if you're too oblique to it, it's not going to be particularly pronounced, I think.
And here you can also see, it's only illuminating the inside. So from some angles,
You can see, yeah,
you're gonna see kind of gaps.
yeah. And here you see it down here.
So I want a red bridge with lighting mounting to the arches.
I mean, I would
You
lean.
laugh, but that's what I would do.
What would you do?
What?
Red bridge.
Is not an option, probably.
Lights on the
Oh,
arches,
oh,
but
oh, yeah.
35 feet to change a light bulb.
So
Greg, how's your team feel about that?
I'm kind of leaning towards if we did red, which is the sure thing, because we know it looks, I mean, it sounds like it looks better during the day. And we have the potential to be positively surprised at night. However, I mean, that feels like a big if,
I'd
right?
be massively disappointed.
Yeah, we've been massively disappointed. We could also, I can live with the massively disappointment because it's still a beautiful bridge. And so the massively disappointment seems like it's not that big of a disappointment, right?
But I can also live with a white bridge if it means it pops like crazy at night.
Well, that's true, because we want this to be the gateway to the city. That's right.
So what if I do something, Mayor?
What are you gonna do?
As long as it's constructed.
I want to pull staff.
Okay, let's ask Jeff.
Do you like white or red?
I like the white, because I fear this red looks rusty. In the photo, it looks rusty. Maybe it doesn't in real life, I don't know.
I could go either way. I think pedestrian bridges have typically been white. So visually, I know looking at, oh, that's probably a pedestrian bridge. But I do like the red during the day, and opposite Sylvia, I like that it looks like the rust because my favorite color was the oxidized.
Oh.
Rust color for sure. And this blue made me think that today. I was like, blue light.
I like the Golden Gate Bridge of the North. Now move over, San Francisco.
Time?
Oh, red.
We have Rich back here.
I'm going for red as well. Brad's back here.
Oh, Brad?
All the way.
Brad? Eric?
White.
White.
That wasn't as helpful as I thought.
Red, but don't believe me, because I could have a bad Christmas tree.
What about our experts here? What do you guys want?
Wait.
Okay, two.
Well, I asked them if they could do the red on the top and the white on the bottom. I actually like the white, I think that pops more.
Yeah, it's such a.
Bridge experts?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look at John first. He's our aesthetic guy.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a toss-up, it really is, because you've pegged it. The red looks very strong during the day.
Yeah.
And at least from what we can tell from these, the reflective colored light is more muted on the red color at night.
Well, what I keep thinking about is the Morrison Bridge downtown, because they have the downlights that right up there and they change the color. And it's a really dark, aged concrete. And you can see the colors fine.
Yeah, but it's more of a concrete color.
But it's dark, it's not.
So if it was your bridge in your house, like, what are you picking, right, red or white?
Well, I'd ask my wife.
John, they were putting you on the spot, man.
Yeah. I don't have derivatives in my house.
So if you were building it in your town, it was your decision, right, okay.
Well, we built the Blumenauer Bridge in our town and we chose white.
I'm a red, sorry.
Also red probably. I would point out the lighting could be, disappointing or a good surprise with either color. So.
That's true, yeah.
I think you've got two good choices. Personally, I prefer a red. Part of it would be that I think most people see it during the day and see it at night, so.
I go with the red because I think it offers, at least during the day, a good contrast. The vents. I think the light's gonna pop a little bit more than I just have a hunch.
And we got, I don't know what your name is.
Oh, hi, I'm Casey.
What do you got? Red or white?
Funnily enough, I'm also a Sherwood resident. I went.
Well, awesome.
You get 2 votes.
Yeah.
Okay. My thought process was like, I'm for the red, but I'm thinking of it more from a standpoint where how much like time of day you're spending looking at it and what time of the day you're spending time doing it.
Daytime.
Yeah.
That's a good observation.
Ryan, you can give it what?
I said white.
I think we have more reds than whites.
It's pretty close. I didn't-
So I'm red, Kim.
I don't know.
We gotta wrap this up.
Okay, I'm red.
I'll go white then.
I'm white, but my wife's red, so I want to pause the recording.
So in the interest of time here, raise your hand if you want red.
Of course, we're not
Everybody
taking
gets
it.
your-
Okay.
Raise your hand.
The council's 3-3.
Okay, now raise your hand if you want white.
Like half and half.
So we gotta go with staff.
Oh. So, okay, when this whole thing first came up, how years ago we started talking about it. The first thing in my mind and the thing in my mind every time I think about this bridge is the light and how's it gonna pop when I drive under it at
And it's
night
true.
and see it lit up. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, so we really have to wrap this up, so
Bowman colors though. I mean.
I like the
reflects
red
well.
bone colors.
But it can be Bowman colors. I mean, that's one of the RGB.
Actually, it makes me just dig in more on white.
I know.
Is that our?
Yeah.
Because we're.
Just lighting there.
You know, before you know it, and. Our lifetime will be too much.
So I will talk to Dan and find out what his choice was and.
Okay.
we'll let you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we don't, so I hate to give you an out.
You know, do a little community survey. We might be surprised. It might get some landslide one way or the other.
But I think we're worried about.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, so as much as we'd love to have an answer like right now, well, we have a little bit of time before we actually have to write down in the specifications, here's the paint, here's the light.
So,
Can we
so,
put these pictures
so
out for
I-
a little poll now?
so let's find out how much time we have, because I don't want to hold this project up. So what's the drop dead date without holding up anything? That you need an answer.
Give you.
It could go into June.
I was gonna say, probably go into early June, so let's
But
say,
as long as we do a survey, we can put some-
I still vote for that.
let's go with 3 weeks, let's go with 3 weeks.
If we can do like a Facebook survey.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay, Facebook.
Yeah, if we show all 3 pictures of each one.
So with the artwork stuff, I mean, what's we're basically, or do we have to have it?
I was gonna say, if we just showed like, here's the white daytime, white lit up with white lit up with multicolor, same thing for all red. Those 6 images. Right here.
Okay.
Do not show any of the other stuff, like none of this, none of the background, like,
just
we want laser
1, 2, 3,
focused on.
4,
And
5.
Okay, we
Slides.
have direction, we gotta get on. This part.
Okay.
And we need,
We're not done yet.
We do need a little bit of
Well,
direction, yeah.
so let me ask this, I think, I don't know that we necessarily need to spend a lot of time on this, I mean, I don't know if folks got a chance to look through the package. So what we are looking for with regard to the artwork is we've taken what came in from the art commission and basically looked at what their recommendations were. And what we've got here was kind of our interpretation and trying to figure out how it mixes in with the bridge project itself. So we do have, actually, I'm gonna just fly through this one.
I think we can just run through it quickly.
Yeah, so there was a lot of talk about doing something for interpretation or interpretive artwork on the Belveders themselves. Basically, what our team came up with was looking at essentially doing a brass plaque that could basically be installed pretty much at whatever time you want to after the bridge is constructed.
Yeah.
We could do a block out. So if that's something that you want to do, I mean, if we had an answer on that within the next 3 weeks, then we're probably golden.
yes,
Can I just ask a question? Are each of these medallions, do they have a different scenery on it?
That's up to you guys.
Okay, that's what I'm understanding of, and I just thought I'd
So
ask.
it's just like a point of interpretation or whatever she said, that you can.
Yeah.
However.
Can we sell them to help fund the bridge?
That's all I was seeing was a piece of metal.
So
we were envisioning that would be one of the art projects.
Yeah.
And artists who, in this case, there were 8 medallions. This sort of sequential repetitive thing could tell some kind of a story.
So that would still be.
And we can decide what that looks like later.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're just trying to decide.
Thumbs up for that.
Let's go. Next one.
To put them in later.
There was also, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, the recommendation was to look at future artwork, but nothing at this time. The west side is,
Yeah.
great.
Agreed.
Cool.
And then we basically got it to kind of 4 specific options on the east side. So first option was to, sculpture could go anywhere, but we did want to just kind of point out there are a number of poles and other things that may kind of visually compete with that, but you could certainly find a place and we can accommodate a place for something vertical sculptural. Second option is to do a custom concrete form. Can look like whatever it wants to look like. We would just define it would be the whole surface of that purple there. So that kind of front curved wall would be a canvas.
When would you need that design?
Summer of 2024, it would need to be done.
It's a year.
So a year.
So I guess the point would be is that if it's something that we want to do, we need to know about it before we finalize it. We need to know that it
We need
will
to show
happen.
it will be.
We don't necessarily need to know.
We would be attaching something there or.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, forming it. And then this option would be attaching something which could happen at any time in the future.
Like forming it or attaching.
I personally like forming, but it's not
Yeah.
my.
Forming it kind of appears like what we did on this bill here.
Yeah.
It does limit.
It limits, so then this is the last option, if you wanted it to potentially be taller than the wall, because it is a little bit slow. It could be something attached that also removes the guardrail, because there is a guardrail on top of that wall. And if it were more of a vertical kind of screen feature, you could have more of a canvas. The darker red is the minimum area. It could be any shape or size they want, as long as it covers that.
Just think the formed wall is fine.
And then potentially if the collective art says, we want a formed wall and we're going to attach something over the formed.
Yeah.
Okay, formed wall.
Kurt, do we need to know potential thickness of that form liner? for
I
this?
think we can.
Unless certain.
Yes. We can just pick a number.
Unless we need to decide that right now. Right? We haven't heard what the cultural arts.
Right, but I don't, we gotta get a base set of decisions on the base.
I would say what we're trying to do is to define the canvas, really, is
Okay,
what we're
that's-
trying to
that's
do.
fine.
And they did recommend something like a form.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted to see some sort of formed concrete.
Yeah, it was the,
What the form is, they can figure out.
Yeah.
and they talked about hiring the same artist.
Right, but could you do letters on that? Like, one of the things I talked about was doing a Sherwood something or.
Yeah, but are we all okay with the formed wall, but later on we can decide what the design is?
Right, I'm just wondering if you
Well,
can do that.
20 minutes, we got a whole other.
Okay.
This is pretty critical though. I mean, I don't want to just be cramming through because we have something else.
Well, then,
Yeah.
then we can move the other meeting, because I just want to make sure we have time to agenda to be ready, so.
So we can always.
How critical, see, I think that's pretty important though.
I don't think, we can go through. After the meeting.
I like the formed wall and
I wanna make sure
it's part of that,
Yeah.
the final design or something attached, as well.
Maybe we should just start eliminating stuff first. I don't like the screening.
I don't like the screening one either.
So that leaves,
Anybody else?
what do we got? What are the other, what's the first one?
Top left, just, you could have a sculpture kind of anywhere. And that's just kind of showing what's
So there's
there.
really only 3 items.
So, yeah, it's,
I'm not really
And I
big
think
on
the
sculpture. I
screening
want the
one-
wall to be the art.
Yeah, I think the screening one makes us actually a bad neighbor to the YMCA, depending on how high that goes.
Yeah.
It seems like blocking.
I don't like the screen idea.
Yeah.
We can
So,
always add something later, but.
So we're down. to
yeah, but
that
on
guy and that
the attached one, so the only thing I like about the attached one is it gives us flexibility to do whatever we want
Mhm.
versus, oh, these things are able to be formed in concrete. Right? There's only certain shapes that are able to be formed in concrete. Right? So there's only a certain amount of detail you can get in that. So it just limits us, like on the outside of this building, we do big giant leaves.
Mhm.
That might be what that is, right? Which might not be the inspirational centerpiece.
Whereas if it's the other one, it's a wall, but then we.
So whatever is gonna be on there is gonna be big, from a big standpoint, big, so it's viewable from the pedestrian and the bicycle and the auto perspective.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm just wondering what the formed wall gets us that the attached does not. And the attached gives us more flexibility to the art commission to say, whatever you want, you can put on there versus things that have to be formed.
I would think the form wall gives us durability and less maintenance. That's provided it is.
And it was on the list from the arts group that they liked honoring the kind of the inspiration of the type of art that's on City Hall Library to throw it out there, because they thought maybe even hiring the same artist.
All right,
All right, did you
either
make
of those works for me, so form.
farm wall? Farm wall. All right, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Yep. 1 coming soon, 2 yes, 3 no, 4 orange.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Doing community sports 50/50 on
So, hey, I want to keep this long, we have 16 minutes to get through. So we might have to. We're keeping five. We can. Let's get it.
You can do part of it now and part of it later, or?
I read through.
I said yes.
Thank you very much. And thanks for making it. I took a picture of the model. I took a picture of it. So,
Yeah. I think they're ready.
yes.
Sorry. Oh, no worries.
You've got.
All right, let's get going. Great.
Rich, Jason, where's Rich? So,
Let's see how much we can get through. If we need to
so let's focus on the 1 year first. That's the bigger one here. I mean, somebody might have a screen on this. So, this first page, as I said when I sent it out, finance is still working on the budget, so I don't think we really need to spend a lot of time on this, but this would be what we're estimated in 23-24. But I can already tell you the Schaumburg's sanitary sewer line's not gonna be as far along, so that number's gonna change this, and we're gonna talk about that one later, as well. So we can move right into the actual 1 year projects that are continuing. We've got several projects here. I want to kind of walk through a couple of them so to bring you up to speed. We've got a lot of projects. And right now, we're going to talk a little bit about, we have 2 engineering staff here. We're down to engineering staff. So we're going to be prioritizing the projects that meet the actual city council goals.
Here's your notes.
Thank you. I need to distribute them. So I just want to get your feedback on that, because if we don't hire another civil engineer, there's, 2,080 hours that is tied into the engineering model, which is tied into the projects that we're either going to have to use outside sources to get stuff done. And as well as I want you to be thinking, we've got, on your council goals, you probably got close to $40 million worth of projects coming up too.
That's where you're saying you're down an engineer and we're trying to hire one.
So we're trying to fill Jason's. We had we had interviews a couple weeks ago with 2 candidates that were fit to qualify. Maybe there's a couple more in the queue.
So that's part of the risk of delivering is what you're saying. So we get that
It
person.
is, there's a lot of projects, so I want to focus on the ones we should need to focus on is the Head Bridge. That's on your council goals. Ice Age Drive is on your council goals. You have the Cedar Creek Trail, separated grade crossing council goals. We need to finish up the Cedar Creek Trail supplemental work that we're working on. We have the maintenance projects which is ties to your council goals. You have, there's a few others on here we can go through. We do have the pit, it's not identified in here. We have the pedestrian crossings. We've had some complaints that didn't get started this last year on Sunset. It just never got started. And I think that I took it out of here, put it in 24, 25, but I think that what we should do is we don't have any traffic calming projects going on, and we can get that started by using a consulting service to come in and move that project
A lot of happy residents.
yeah, through our traffic calming funds, because we don't have any projects identified. So
Are we gonna, will that have this set, are we gonna pick a new standard for pedestrian crossing? And for pedestrian crossing improvements, if there's lights involved?
if that's something you guys are interested in, we can bring some options back for you.
Well,
I
we had,
really hate what we do.
well, we had a conversation, we had a conversation about that earlier, about standardizing that and going, I think where the conversation with all around is what we do in front of, the old middle school, grade school. Yeah.
The flashing yellow LEDs.
Save people.
I mean, it's better than nothing, but I think it's just the best.
So we can put something in and bring that back. I don't want to overpromise you guys that we can actually do this because of staff. So that's why I want to stick to you guys as council goals and the projects that we have. And there's some other ones in here.
Well, so if we could, just on that subject, can we consider bringing on the contract work? To help work on this stuff, okay?
That would be the,
We're not paying an engineer because we can't go and hire, we should be using the funds to pay something.
so that's what we would have to do. I just want you guys to know, we're focused on your council goals, or projects to deliver. And I know that you got a lot of money going out, and I don't want problems with projects.
Yeah.
To be sure, that's all I'm asking for you guys, so we can be on top.
If you need, well, council, if you need contracting help to get some of these things done, we should be looking at that.
Yeah, so we will definitely do that, but I also just want to let you know, we stood on staffing.
Yeah, so I'm sorry you're not getting better interest because we're doing some super cool stuff.
Yeah.
But my perspective is the same as the mayor's, get the help we need to deliver. The cost of delay, you know, it's gonna.
We'll save a little bit more money now, and speed things up, we'll save.
And Craig, I just wanted to add that, so the consultants were here, they vouched that they are having hard hiring folks as well. So it's not like the industry slowed down like we thought it would, and we could attract folks, it's still keeping up, so it's just hard to get civil engineers and engineers in general hired. We'll get a consultant on board and get things hammered out.
So I just wanted to let you guys know. So I'd like to start on the Wallen Sherwood Road lighting project. That's moving along, that, as you know, that's multiple years. This really is, we're just coordinating on this part of it. In the water side, there's a lot of relocation of some sanitary work as well as water line work that's going on out there. But that's what that money is for. Oregon Street Improvement Project. Eventually, you'll hear more about the tannering project going on, the cleanup and where we're at there. So you have a regional water quality facility in the Oregon Street project that will tie into the tannering cleanup site. And there's some storm drainage work that's got to be done with the development that's going on next to that. So we're pretty close to 100% besides some storm work. And that's coordinated.
Is that sprinkler outfit building now?
What's that?
On Oregon, is that sprinkler outfit building?
Project. And then you have the Arrow Street. That project is just some small amount of money in there to work with the county.
Real quick on Oregon Street.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When is that scheduled to actually construction start?
I think there's going to be some funding that we need to work out.
I guess I thought, seeing we saw all the renderings and everything, I thought it was further closer.
We've kind of paused
Closer
it
to happening.
to tie it together with this Tanner site cleanup, and it's gonna take about 2 years to get the environmental permits for that.
Okay.
So the project's kind of paused a little bit, working with the Tanner.
Economies
site
of
to kind of-
scale.
Yeah, it's a huge project, is what we're trying to do.
I'm sure we'll come back with some funding.
What's their question? So we didn't do the roundabout? We're about money for roundabouts?
That's just a line and overlay.
Okay.
So it's coming out of our pavement management.
Yep.
So the Schaumburg Sewer Line Project, there's about $500,000 worth of sewer work that's got to be done. It's an old line. It's 6-inch line, needs to be upsized to 8-inch. we started working on some easements in there. But our sanitary fund, as I've talked about before, is in bad shape. And so there's $500,000 and we don't really have the money to fund the $500,000. It is an ask in the ARPA funds for the $500,000. I think it's gonna be hard to get any kind of federal funding for that. But
Because this isn't one of our asks with the feds.
or state funding for that. I just think it's gonna be hard to get the money for that project.
And have we done everything we can when it comes to adjusting that revenue stream rate?
We've been raising the rates under commercial, we'll be proposing another rate increase there. But if you remember,
But we're still just so with the whole.
yeah, you got 100, you probably, once we get through, you're probably $140,000. I mean, that's our smallest, we just don't bring a lot in.
So I think that's from my perspective, valuable conversation for us about potentially, yeah, you got a capital fund set up. Maybe we just send $500,000. Sure.
That'd be great, so we can get it down. Because it's about 500,000, I think, for the sanitary, then you got some storm work and some street work to finish that off. But that's what we're looking at there. I just want to, it's been on the list.
Yeah, so we clearly got to do it. We have option A or option B. C, we wait longer, borrow, do it, or
We fund it.
we fund it. I mean, we borrow it, we need to have even a faster rate increase plan.
So anyways, it's been on the list for a while, but it's been on the list because we haven't been able to do a little bit of work with the money.
The need hasn't gone away, and we still run the risk of having problems.
Yep.
The last thing any of us want as an elected is some constituent calling and saying, the sewer's backed up at my house. So,
Thanks, that's where that's at. I think, moving on to the Ice Age Drive, I want you to, you're gonna see the Kinder Morgan agreement tonight for $2 million. Going back and forth with Kinder Morgan. If we can actually get that paid this budget year, that would be $2 million out of this year, but if not, that 1.5, when you see the budget will change another $2 million. So on the Ice Age Drive, it's for the relocation of the Kinder Morgan. So I just want to, you got to fund it up front and then they renegotiate in the end. But yeah, it's really high. They got a rock out there, so there's going to be some additional.
are we happy with the new alignment of the line, Kinder Morgan? It's up to $2 million just for the pipeline?
Come back, it was 1.5, and then when they realized there's rock in it, so they actually put some money in it for the rock. But whatever they don't spend, we're gonna get back to the cities.
$2 million is the worst case scenario.
Yeah. So anyways, I just want you to know that you might see that come through, that initial $2 million on top of the 1.5, if we don't get it paid out this year. Traffic calming, we already talked about, we'll spend some of that money on Sunset Pit. Woodhaven Swells is a maintenance project. Catch basins annual ongoing project, and especially. Yeah.
So is that the priority coming out of the traffic calming committee as well?
That is one of them. They talked a little bit about it, but it's not, we don't have any project.
I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, that's one thing that had come up with the traffic safety committee was getting printout of where the $100,000.
Yeah, there seems to be some
I think there's some
confusion maybe,
confusion around that.
yeah.
Just a lot. I agree with the priority, but I just want to make sure that they're.
And then you've got water quality.
And those dollars aren't like growing. I mean, you've got traffic calming money we put in every budget year. It's not spent. It's not like it starts growing. It stays.
Street.
Yeah, and when the new year rolls up and we allocate up to 100,000.
I told the traffic safety committee that it is use it or lose it budget.
Right, and they have no authority to spend it.
It's the,
They don't,
Clarity.
but they need to, we put them in place to take their advice and just gotta be careful.
Absolutely, we get their advice like everybody else, but they don't, they can't vote to spend
But
it.
I think the challenge right now is we really clearly haven't defined what that process is, right? So they're sitting there.
It's like nothing's come to us.
They don't know what tools they
Right.
have.
Yeah.
We just need to clean up that process. Make sure it flows.
So the water quality facility, that's a maintenance project for our water quality facilities. Gleneagle Drive is off of Gleneagle, it's the storm drainage that runs, we've got to do some digging in there. Second pine, it's been on the list for a while. It's some updates to a pond, comes out of Stella Olson Park towards Second Park. We already talked about the regional facility. I highlighted on my deal here to talk just a little bit about the Brookman sanitary sewer. That's another one. We're gonna have an expense out of the sanitary fund for the city's portion. We're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna fund that project. It looks like we're gonna be able to do work this next year that we need to, but when we actually start construction, clean water services, there's gonna be a portion of that that we're gonna have to pay for. So it'll be our size of pipe. So just to give you a heads up on that.
Is that the 3.6 million?
That is, yeah.
503.
That's all we're gonna spend this next year, is the 500. Future, though, we'll start construction. There'll be some IGAs with clean water services on that agreement, because we're responsible for this, a size up to 12-inch. And they pay for us, so more to come on that, but I want to give you a heads up on that. Rock Creek Sanitary, as I say, phase 2, there's a 1B and 2 that we're working on right now. That's a pass-through with clean water services, and we have Consort working on that project with us. The Old Town laterals will come off the CIP because that's more of a maintenance project in downtown. I don't know why it's been on the CIP, and for some reason it must stay on the CIP. I thought I took it off. These other, on the water side.
Is it coming off because it's done or because?
No, it's coming off because you're not gonna do all the laterals downtown. You're gonna fix one or two if there's an issue. I think it was just identified in the master plan as capital.
And that's one of our asks.
Yeah.
To redo the whole. Yeah.
You got all the names and everything. Right. So then we still, on the water side, we have the lift capacity, that's gonna be finishing up. We actually, TBWD, we still need to buy that next set from 6.2 to 9.7. That's in there. You still have the 20 million gallon plant expansion project. That's what we think we're gonna spend next year. It should be wrapping up. There is gonna be some work that's gonna go on in 25 just because we couldn't get parts still in. So there is gonna be some, then you just got the normal routine water line. TS Road complex that we're working with, that's the water complex that we're working with out there. We have zero money budgeted in the public works facility because we focus on the tannery cleanup before we put any more money into the facility. 99 Bridge. We talked about that. That's a priority project that we want to continue to work on, as well as Cedar Creek Trail, and then you have this tannery cleanup. Continuing projects. And we're currently working with an environmental company. Actually going to make an offer on the property pending PTA here pretty soon. So it's going to start moving forward. So hopefully we can actually get some folks on board and help us apply for some grants, brownfield grants this fall.
So we asked for quite a bit of money at the state level and federal level for that. Did not meet the list for the Christmas tree bill. It's state level. At the federal level, it's an incredibly oversubscribed program. So it's going to be a challenge getting that, but we're continuing to work on it.
So you have the Murdoch Road. That's been on the list for a while. That's one that we might have to bring somebody else on. It's still a priority to help us with without having somebody here. You just have the maintenance projects. That's been identified for street pavement. Still have the drainage swell in there from last year. And then the thing that I want to focus on here is there's a Park Road over here. We've got a section of pipeline, water pipeline that's in bad condition that we'll be looking to replace this next year. And that comes out of the water replacement fund. And then you have the art center, the parking lot, some money in here to start working on some of that, as well as Murdoch Park infill, which is identified in the park master plan, and then 150K for trail expansion. And that can actually go a couple different ways. It's not. We've got it here that's looking out on the other side of Cedar Creek, what that's going to look like, but it could actually be spent on the feeder trails that Jason and his team is working on from the senior center tie-ins to the actual Cedar Creek Trail. So it's pretty wide open in the master plan. So there's a few projects on here. We need to figure out how we're going to fund, if we're going to do something with the transient lodging tax or whatever Keith has talked to you about, and David. about the gravel parking lot over here to move that project forward. It'd be nice to be able to get some sort of conceptual plans so you can see that it's something to look like this next year. I don't have anybody budgeted for there, so I, Kristen and I had to bring that forward split time. Because that, and I don't have a whole lot budgeted staff wise into the Morale Park infill. So, again, we only have so many hours a week, right? And I think we spread that out. We have an engineer that probably going to spend 3/4 of his time just working on project development. So,
Well, I think it's something we need to have a work session to talk about. What we can consider there. Yeah, because I don't think we've really done that yet. That can be a separate
I think
conversation.
that would be a kickoff.
Yeah.
Remind me, is that on our council?
Yep. So what I try to do is hit all the council goals, high priorities, got the staff time tied to that. The ones that aren't high priorities don't have any hours of staff time. So we can do that. We can actually talk about the 5-year if you want to afterwards.
How long do you think it takes to get 5 years?
I don't need to go through everything on that. I'm hoping you guys, I just kind of want to let you know in 1 year what you got. If you have questions or anything, maybe we can answer. I'm hoping that everything's been identified in there that you guys are wanting. Most of the stuff come out of the transportation, water, all the master plans, as well as projects that we've identified as a team here. So you guys can pass.
It's right. The most significant thing on my perspective of the 5-year list is saying on the new projects, are we supportive of the new projects? It's not very much now, but like, are we on board with the Murdoch Park infill project? I've had that conversation beyond this. I'm not sure we have. Might be great, though.
That's
Just like the Arts Center, Jason, a lot of what Jason, the Arts Center, take off project, talk about that. Trail network expansion, that's a conversation, certainly.
I guess the way I would think about it, because you're working on budget too right now, so I think, is there anything in the 5-year plan that you thought should have been in the 1-year plan? Anything like that we're concerned about at this point?
For me, no.
In fact, for me, I would say I feel like there's too much in the 1-year plan that we don't have money for.
Right.
So we gotta push some of that.
But the reason I asked that question is, if we're comfortable, there's nothing in the 5-year plan, we can schedule a work session down the road to go through that in detail. Make sure we have plenty of time to talk about it. I would like that, but I think the priority is the 1-year plan in terms of budgeting.
Right, so I think in the 5-year plan, I'll go to the budget, that you guys will approve the capital improvement plan for 5 years. So we probably need to have that conversation before you guys approve the CIP, because the 5-year and the 1 year. So,
Okay.
yeah, my main focus was the 1 year, and give you guys some time to look at the 5-year. But I also want to let you know, I don't want to tell you we're gonna do something if we can't do it, so.
I appreciate it. And by the way, I love you tying these to the council goals. This the key down at the bottom, and also as you're talking about it, I feel like that grounds me and how much we asked you to do this year.
So you can get another work session scheduled going to 5-year next month or so.
After the budget's done.
Yeah, and then I think we're good. Well, we need to look at it enough. Are we comfortable with it enough that it's gonna go on the budget?
No.
Taylor?
The 1-year stuff's gonna go in the budget?
5-year.
The 5-year stuff.
Keeping in mind that doesn't mean we're gonna do it this year, it's just.
Yeah, there's a few things that I'm like, I'd rather have this than that, and so I don't, are the numbers fungible? Like I said, I'd rather have a frisbee disc.
Well, it's nearly next year, we're gonna be talking about the next year.
Yeah.
This First year, so.
So we're just okaying the numbers.
What's the point of having it in the budget in the first place? Outside of what's actually gonna be in the budget for the current.
But, well, I think it's part of our 5-year forecast.
Right, but
that's all changing, so this.
Yeah.
The question is, am I just saying yes to the dollar amounts here and not the specifics? Or am I saying?
I think you're saying yes.
Saying yes for now, and we can change it next year.
Oh, David has a.
Yeah, the 1-year plan, that is built into the budget that's gonna be coming forth in front of city council, but that 5-year plan, we outline it in a section in the budget document that just kind of shows, these are all the various projects.
It just shows the projects, it doesn't even show the money, right?
No, it shows the future dollar amounts that potentially could be spent, but it's not a.
It's not set in stone.
Exactly.
So do you still need to provide that?
Next year.
Yeah, if I have some flexibility after.
Yeah.
Yeah, like next year, you could say we don't learn one that.
Yeah.
I mean,
June, August conversation.
All right, summer, thank you, Craig, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, our work session is closed. We'll take 5 minutes to start.